evening, everyone. This is the third regular meeting of the Board of Directors of School Administrative District number 52. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance, led by Brianna O'Leary.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. First order of business is to act on the minutes from our meeting on September 5th, which was the second regular meeting. Are there any thoughts, comments, or revisions to those minutes? Seeing none, they are approved by unanimous consent. My report this evening, I just wanted to try to touch on our workshops that we had over the last, what was it, last week and the one few weeks before that. I was really glad we have gone through those, and I think we still have probably some loose ends to tie up, though, I think, after that. So probably, I've spoken with a few of you. I didn't get a chance to talk with everyone, but it was a pretty good general feeling that having another, hopefully, perhaps brief workshop session coming up in the coming weeks, so it doesn't kind of escape our minds, would be a good idea. I certainly think so. You know, next Thursday may make some sense, but I don't know if it's too soon. Maybe we should circulate some dates. I don't know. I kind of want to get your thoughts if anyone has them. Yes, generally, yes. I mean, I don't know if folks we want to commit to a date right now or not, but
That's the 26th.
yeah.
It's for me.
Not like I ever plan anything on Thursday night.
All right. Well, so if everyone feels good enough about that, then maybe I'll just propose right now a motion to schedule the workshop next Thursday at 5:30 at the middle school.
Sure.
Yeah.
Wherever you guys feel most comfortable.
Are we, this is without the,
Yes, this will just be us.
just, okay.
Talking.
And also pending building use, just to make sure
Right.
that the middle school is.
I got a nod. I just got a nod.
Oh, nice. That's the benefit of being able to see that far.
Yeah, I'd say, I think to schedule a meeting, we have to take a vote. Or can we just
No,
throw them
we've
together? Okay.
added meetings before.
All right, well then, we'll just check in with Kyle and Anthony, stay tuned for your email, likely a workshop next Thursday, so just stay tuned.
Okay.
5:30 in middle school, yeah.
So just to add to that, Martha is out tomorrow. I am at a conference tomorrow, so in terms of notification and stuff, Monday would be when I would be able to do that, so.
Okay, well, it'll take a day or so to
Yeah.
catch up with folks, so.
Okay.
All right, sounds good. So that'll bring us to, unless anyone has any other thoughts there, it'll bring us to public comment. We don't see anyone that is like, so I don't know if I need to read through this. Is anyone here interested in commenting?
Please. Kidding.
All right, well,
I'll
that
tell you.
can be brief then, we can move on. Seeing no public comment, we can move on to communications. I have one, and that is an acknowledgement of a donation to Leeds Central School from Luther Ellis, also known as Mr. Buster, for those in the know, for trees and flowers planted and maintained over the summer at Leeds Central School. Thank you, Mr. Buster. Carrie?
I have one resignation, Sierra Melanson, who's the Adult Ed College and Career Coordinator. And then we have added 3 substitutes, one who is willing to work at Levitt, Leeds, Turner, the 2 Turners, one at Leeds, Levitt, Tripp, Turner, and one at Tripp, Turner, Turner. So, 3 new subs. Didn't hear Green. Green really could use more, in case anybody out there is listening.
Did they give any reasons to why?
I don't know, I'd have to ask Amy. Typically it's where they live, where their kids go to school, like it's, where they're comfortable. In general, that's why people do it, but I don't know specifically for these people.
Anyone else? Any questions of Mr. Buster? All right. We can move on. Adjustments to the agenda, I don't have any for tonight, so we can move right into committee reports. Oh, do you have any questions? All right, so first one is from the Finance Committee, Ashley.
So our bus scraper system conversation is getting postponed until the next meeting. And then we had some general conversations around, just some things that came out of the workshop that people had highlighted, the things they'd like to see the finance committee work on. We went over like what to look at with the warrant, which are the reports that the finance committee signs. We signed payroll warrants and AP warrants, which are listed checks, expenses. That both Carrie and Gabby sign as well, and just what to look for those and what those are, and discuss putting together some information for people coming onto the finance committee or the board in general that explains what that is for people coming on. So they're not just giving reports to sign in. And then we went over what a fund balance is, which is something Gabby and I had discussed at one of the meetings. I think some people coming on to a school board wouldn't know, because that's not something we typically see in financials. And then internal control review, which was something I had asked about with the auditor, and there was some miscommunication he gave last time. There was a couple questions I had, so it's something that just Carrie and Gabby are gonna look into, whether or not any controls can be mitigated with signatures or reviews, whatnot, so they're gonna look at that. And then we discussed some potential goals, and I'd welcome any feedback from anyone else. This came out of the workshop, so one of the goals, or one of the things that came out of it was like a financial dashboard or something that the board could have either monthly or quarterly that gives kind of a financial snapshot that's high level, that people don't necessarily have to just look at the report or don't really need a finance background to understand generally where the district is financially, or anything high level that's happening on a financial basis that the district should know about. Because we see those reports in committee, but we don't report on them. So it would be a little mundane if I just read the report off line by line. So something that we could disperse that everyone could see. And then we discussed training, onboard training for the finance committee or board members in general, what that could look like if that could be to help people better understand if that's something that Karen's gonna think about, or we'll continue discussions on. If there's any feedback people have on other things they think would be beneficial from a finance perspective for the community to think what are things people want to see. And we did not get to the Anders Bank interest rates, so I assume we'll do that next time. And then, so last meeting, we presented the board their social security issue where for 3.5 years, there were a handful or a few employees that their wages were reported incorrectly, so social security wasn't withheld. So Gabby did that calculation, it's about $7,600 of the employee's share that they otherwise would have had to pay in through their paycheck, but they were not paying that in because of an error on the payroll department part, the district's error. So the recommendation is that we as a district absorb that expense and we pay that on their behalf rather than asking them to pay that. But it is $7,600, and we want to get feedback on what the board thinks we should, if that's reasonable.
Should we add that to the agenda for discussion?
I think that's what we talked about, we just put it on the next agenda, yeah.
All right.
On the next agenda, okay.
Yeah, we'll just put it off one meeting, I should say.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything? Great, any questions? I definitely feel like there was some workshop goals kind of coming out of that report there, in education, and I think that's great. So, next meeting is October 17th at the primary school, 5:30. Plant Transportation and Building Committee, Kyle is the chair, but they didn't meet tonight, so I don't think there's a report. Is anyone on PTB feel?
I'm the only one here. Kyle's extensive report out last meeting covered a lot, and I think we have some stuff that was there that we're continuing to speak about. I know we're covering the bus scraper system on that committee as well, so that will be something that will probably, if I had to guess, be brought to the board once we have a recommendation.
Great. And so that next meeting will be October 3rd at 5:30 at Turner Elementary School. Policy did meet tonight. Jamie's here.
Yeah, we met tonight. We spent the beginning part of the meeting just doing the charge, because I think we were the only committee that hadn't had a chance in committee meeting to review our charge, so we did finalize a charge. As you guys can see, Anthony wasn't here, so we did allow him the opportunity, because he knew he wasn't gonna be here, so when we were, doing our charge, he did weigh in online, so, all of that was kind of conveniently taken care of beforehand, so he was able to give his input on that. And then you will see on the consent agenda today, these are second readings. The only thing that's a new reading is the recommendation to delete a policy, and the reason why that comes up on this one is because we can't delete a policy until we've officially adopted a policy to replace it. So after the second reading of these, it will officially be adopted, and then we can also delete the one that we're replacing. So I just wanted to give an explanation of why that's appearing once and only once. The other thing we discussed today was a medication policy, administration of medication to students. The school lead nurse attended our meeting, and we have to update that policy specifically because, and it's kind of urgent, because we are looking to add Narcan, glucagon, and Epi as emergency drugs that will be stocked at the school and provided for our students, and our nurses are getting training and all of that. Now we can't officially stock emergency medications unless we have a policy. So we went over that tonight and made some changes to that policy, but given the time frame that their training takes place and the medication is expected to be there, we'll probably try to go through those edits a little quickly to get it on the board. I shouldn't say quickly. We'll probably try to have the edits made back to the committee soon, have us discuss them with an emergency meeting, and then get them on, just given the strict timeline that we have for that
Have a
policy.
first reading next meeting.
That's our hope, yes. Yep,
Great.
and that's it.
Great, all right. Thank you, and the next meeting will be October 17th at 5:30 at Turner Primary School. Curriculum Committee did not meet tonight, but Bree, do you have anything to add?
No, we will be meeting again like others on October 3rd at 5:30 at TES.
Great. Still no student representative, but we're getting close.
Potentially something cooking.
Okay, very good, very good. So then, we'll move on to administrative reports, and we'll start tonight with Tripp Middle School Principal Nates.
You guys have our reports.
Yeah.
Does anybody have any questions?
I was curious, I was looking at the kind of decision that teachers were able to choose one course of study with one book or the other.
Voluntold.
Kind of, okay, I was actually wondering that, where you're like, yeah, so it was kind of more of an assignment.
Well, we have sort of two big focuses this year, one being math, and some strategy behind our new assistant principal having a really strong math background. Some other schools in the district are also doing a book study on building thinking classrooms in math, and so Amanda Gray is taking that on with the math department. We're also doing co-teaching in math at the middle school, and so it sort of made sense for that. With that being said, we're also in year 2 of BAR, and one of the big pieces of BAR is really looking at tier 2 strategies, so students that are still in the mainstream in the regular classroom but might need a little bit more support. And so the rest of the building is taking on that as a book study to support, again, the, I don't want to say audit, or to support the special ed audit that was done at a district level to really build more opportunities for students to be in the mainstream classroom.
Any other questions? Yes.
I'm trying to remember at this point, the middle school, does that fall under the similar as to the high school where the referral data is a little bit different? I'm just curious, you know, I
For
see.
behavior?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So do we have any sort of way to, you know, we see suspensions in meetings, but, you know, classroom referrals, classrooms issues, you know, how are we working with data for that to know, like, how our seventh grade classes, you know, do we have times when the classroom is being shut down for a reason?
So we don't do the Swiss through PBIS, but we track it through PowerSchool. The reports you're looking at were due last week, so we were still in the honeymoon phase of sort of school starting back up, so there wasn't a ton of data, so I was just reporting out to you sort of the bigger things. But monthly through BAR, when I do my principal reports, I can share out with you guys. If you remember, we had tiered sort of like students that are at tier 3 or like that community connect. Those are the students that are needing a lot of supports at the school, down to level 0, which are students that are acclimating really well and independently navigating middle school. And then we can break it down even further if you want, or at least when I do my principal report and talk about, we call them like problems of practice, places that we're looking to, that are hot spots for sort of behaviors that we need to make adjustments for.
Well, and one of the areas that gets brought up to me on occasion is just, and it, because referrals kind of covers it, unfortunately, under the Swiss program, but is this one is like, how often do student behaviors, is there a way for a teacher to report a student behavior has disrupted the classroom, and are we able to see how many times in the course of a month
Yeah.
is a classroom disrupted to the point where other students' learning is being, affected?
So through PowerSchool, which is our tracking system, you could put in a student's name and you could get any of the office referrals for them. You could put in a particular behavior like disruption and see how many in a month, down to the students that were written up for that. You could put in the consequence, meaning like how many students had in-school suspension, and you could get a percentage of the students. So it does all of the same stuff that Swiss was doing if you were looking for particular data.
So I guess in comparison to what the other schools are doing, I guess it would be, I would be curious at how often a classroom is disrupted. You know, how often are our students having their education disrupted, and how are we dealing with it? So I guess.
So I think the difference is in Swiss, those reports are already built within that system, so we can just pull them.
Yeah.
For PowerSchool, we'd have to probably build the reports. I don't think it's just like a report that we can run. So but I think it's an interesting question that we can work with Jason Breton, who's the database manager, to see how we can pull those by the type of disciplinary issue.
We can.
Yeah,
Yep, we can.
so,
Yeah. Thank you.
so, good question, we'll follow up.
Anyone else? Principal Nate? Yes.
I was just like curious about the Common Sense Media digital citizenship. Have you guys started that yet in Crew?
We have.
How's it going?
It's going pretty well. I mean, I would say probably 50%, if I were to guess, of the disciplinary things that we deal with as administration in the middle school have to do with social media. Most of it outside of school, because we don't allow cell phones at the middle school. And so really being intentional about helping them understand appropriate and non-appropriate behaviors on social media. For some students, it's something that they're not aware of yet, which is sort of interesting to see, because they're what's allowed at home is a little bit more sheltered than not, and for some students, it's sort of like serving in place of perhaps what we would hope is being taught at home. And so it's just nice to be able to check off that we've covered all of these things that we would hope students at 13, 14, 15 years of age are able to be taught about what's appropriate and not appropriate use of technology, social media. We do a lot of like what to do if this happens, or who could you let know if this were happening. And so, yeah, it was time to just
Yeah,
Whiteboard.
yeah.
I applaud your effort.
Thanks. Do parents whose children do not have access to social media have an option to opt their kids out of this if that's not something they want to do?
Yeah, so not all of the lessons are about social media or particular social media. It just has to do with like common sense media. It could be like around technology use on computers, or appropriately using emails or responding to emails. It talks about even things you're seeing on TV and movies. So any sort of like media or technology that students are exposed to. And it's a program that's I'd have to look, I wanna say through Harvard, that was done. I can get you I think I linked it actually in there, did I? Who put it out?
It just says common sense media. Yeah.
One thing I will say that even those students, if they don't have social media themselves, it's nearly impossible for them not to be impacted by it because their peers will be talking about something. So sometimes it's just, what do you do when you hear about that? You know what I mean? Like, it is impossible for them to not experience some kind of social media issue, even if they're not participating themselves.
I can get you, like, they're not lessons that we created ourselves, they're lessons that are, made for.
This age group too, right? Yeah. Because they also have high school aged lessons as well, that are more appropriate for that age group.
Anyone else? I only have one more. And that was, you're writing things down. 54% participation seems pretty good for fall sports.
Yeah.
I know when we were going through strategic planning, it's harder to track data on other extracurricular activities. So I'm gonna ask a question we probably don't have an answer to, but like, I'm wondering how many kids are participating in at least something else other than school?
Yeah, so our enrichment clubs and activities started this week with Dungeons and Dragons starting next week. That's when we have kids like bated breath waiting to start. I don't understand Dungeons and Dragons, but it is a thing. So I can get that. Like we just started yearbook. Unified is a big one. Our Unified Champions. We have probably over 50 kids participating in Unified. Some with crossover. Student leadership started this week. Yearbook committee started. So once we have those final rosters on my next report, I can let you know who's participating in something athletic or co-curricular total.
Yeah, I think the high school's starting to try to get better data around that. I don't know, maybe, I don't wanna add
So
to.
there's like in Power School, you can like click what someone's participating
Right, but
in.
didn't we figure out last year, didn't, when we rolled the year over, it disappeared? So there's some setting we don't have right in there. I can make a note.
I just, I would love to see everyone doing at least one other thing,
That's
but
the
you know.
goal.
Right, so I'm just curious. And item, like 54% according to other schools, is that high, do we feel? I don't know, I know that.
My instinct is that that's high.
You know,
And that's just athletics.
Yeah, right.
That's not taking into account any of the other clubs, yeah.
Okay. Thanks. Anyone else? Great. Thank you so much, Principal Mates. Principal Fuller from the primary school is unfortunately sick, so she cannot be here tonight. We do have her report. If there's anything pressing, I guess we could send questions.
Yeah, if anybody's got any questions, I'm happy to filter them.
You look at the graph real quick and goes, and also you look and see, well, that's one.
Right.
Like, you gotta look at that left side real quick to realize, oh, that's really not really that much of an issue, but then all of a sudden it's.
I realize that they can pull this with last year's data by month. The only problem is like it won't be like a full month. Like she pulled September, but that's not the full September. So
Yeah, no, I understand.
But it still feels like things are down on average, perhaps, in September. So that's good.
we'll see once September's done.
Well, last year in August, we had half a kid.
Anyone else? Okay. So that brings us to our special education director, Mr. Isdale.
So I believe you have a copy of my report as well. Does anybody have any questions?
The fan, if you just raise your
Yes.
voice, just because the
Yes.
fan drowns you out.
Oh, sorry.
The first thing that always jumps out to me when I read your report is how many vacancies there are.
Yes.
But it does look like we're doing our best trying to fill some of those. Look, I guess I noticed that Turner Elementary School isn't on the list of having vacancies. Does that mean Turner Elementary School is fully staffed?
It does.
Okay, so it's
Yes.
just our other schools.
Mm-hmm.
But some of these positions have subs in them.
They do. So in my report, we have 5 of the vacancies are filled with contracts. So even though the 17, 5 of them are already filled with contracts, and then we have substitutes as well. So we were putting it out, we have long-term substitutes filling some of the roles, and then we also have substitutes that are picking that up day by day to fill some of those roles. We do have holes in that. But we've also signed another, well, I say we, but Carrie has signed another contract to work with another company as well to bring in another company to support our ed tech employment. And so I actually have 3 interviews next week to support some of the vacancies we have.
That's great. I feel like, again, this is common theme almost every time, and I feel like whenever we talk about it, it's just common amongst other schools as well.
It is, and I would say it wasn't up until probably around when we had COVID, we could always fill our ed tech vacancies. It was the teachers that we had struggled filling along with some of our service providers. But now we've been able, as of the 30th, all of our special ed teacher positions are going to be filled, and but we've had a hard time in the last few years since COVID filling all of our vacancies with ed techs, and then we're service provider full, which is so really.
Yeah.
This doesn't look, we have vacancies, but like we're probably in better shape than we've been in many years with
Great.
staffing.
And continuing to try to
Yes,
staff. Yeah.
yes.
Yes.
I noticed that some of your professional development was on the topic of co-teaching, and that's new this year, right?
It is. So
Have you
that-
gotten any feedback on how it's going,
Maybe Jen, I can share a small story that happened today with some students talking about co-teaching at the middle school. That is one of the recommendation pieces that the IMTSS team is working on, and our consultants from UMF have been supporting us and doing that training as well, which has been amazing. Do you mind, I know it's not your report, but do you mind sharing?
No, I was telling her when we got here, I have, well, they're not mine, but they're mine at the school, 2 twin boys that are in 7th grade, and one of them wasn't feeling well. The mom was coming to pick them both up. People were sick at home, and so we'd gotten them lunch, and they were eating lunch in the office, and I was in my office doing something, and I had the door open, and they were talking. His brother said to him, like, what class are you gonna miss or something? And he was saying, my math class. And then his brother, who's on another team, said, well, who's your math teacher? And he was like, I have 2 math teachers. And he's like, they call it co-taught. And his brother said, what does that mean? And he said, well, one of them's the regular teacher, and the other one helps students that need extra help in math, but he's allowed to help everyone if they need it.
Oh my God,
So
that's
I was like,
beautiful.
I wanted to take my phone and start recording them, but I knew they would like stop if I did that. And so they just kind of kept talking a little bit, but it was really cool that like that was their understanding, and it was just acceptable, and his brother thought it was cool that he had 2 teachers in the classroom, but understood that both teachers could help everyone, and so I'm gonna take that as it's going really well.
Yeah.
Great.
Teresa and I have started, we've met with 2 schools so far, but we've started bringing the presentation that eventually we're gonna be bringing to the board about our IMTSS work, and a little bit that I had talked about, Teresa and I and Carrie had talked about the last time we were here. But after a recent presentation that we had at one of our schools, I was approached by more interest for special education and general education teachers to work together to be able to do some co-teaching. So that was awesome that we're starting to fill our list for our next round of training, or includes the next cohort of training, I should say.
Nice. Just one more. And Margaret Murphy partnership, sounds like it's working well.
Yes.
Kind of, I don't remember if we were piloting it or if we had committed to a longer term. I was curious, like, it sounds like this is something we're gonna be doing foreseeably moving forward.
Yes, yes, we, I think, certainly the director of Margaret Murphy and I know our district are interested in a long-term partnership.
Yep.
To be able to do that. We are, I'm still working on, I think I mentioned it last year a little bit during budget season. We're still in, I think, what the state would consider pilot. So we might be able to eke out a little bit of funding this school year to be able to support that as well. So that's really good news. But we are, and it's very exciting to see the kiddos, or the children and students, working with their staff and going out into classrooms. We have a student that has had limited communication skills and has some augmented communication devices. And just in the last several weeks, his vocabulary has bloomed and blossomed, and making connections with peers, and it just is further evidence that if you don't, with students, children who do struggle to communicate, you want to surround them with rich communication from their peers and their teachers to be able to support their continued development. So we're starting to have some success stories with them being included.
Great. Okay, anything else? Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, welcome, Anthony. Nice to see you. That will bring us to our assistant superintendent report, Ms. Gillis.
I do not have a report this evening.
Okay, very well. That'll move us to our superintendent report.
So I'm gonna take an opportunity to correct some data. I sent you an update last Friday. I was gonna give you the slides for my presentation, but I realized that I had some incorrect information, which works out because it's better than what I presented, so. Did I send enough? Okay, there. And I have an extra one here. So it didn't print in color, but I think all the grays work out. So the two places where the data was incorrect was the middle school and the high school. So everything else is the same. I didn't make any changes. So if you want to turn to the last 2 pages. Middle school suspensions, if you remember last time, it was like the percentage of the student population that had been suspended. It was like between 20 and 30%. Well, that was not accurate. We were looking at 2 pieces of data that had 2 different purposes that I pulled the wrong purpose. So like when I was checking with Jason Breton, who pulls this information, he was like, yeah, that's a really bad report, but we have to do it for the federal government, whatever. So what you have in front of you here is the number of students who were suspended. So in the middle school, last year and 2 years ago and last year, a total of 22 students each year were suspended. So that's like 22 out of 300 kids. Like it's a much smaller number, right? But the good thing was, even though it's the same number of kids suspended, they spent fewer days outside of school, right? And I would say, and then Jana, you can offer some thoughts here, but one thing the board did change was the policy around vaping and tobacco, and that was a huge piece of the suspension data for the middle school in that 131 days. So that group of 22 kids total missed 131 days of school. Last year it was down to 90 because we altered that. We added an intervention in terms of like, some education piece and all of that. But that was, I think, a major contributor to that reduction, which I think is a success. I don't know, Jana, was there anything in particular? Was that the major difference?
That was good.
Yeah. So good news there. I want to share that your policy change made direct impact. And then the high school is the next page. Their number of unique individual students, the number suspended in 22-23 was 41. They went down almost 10 students. Last year, only 32 students, individual students were suspended. Total number of days, not a dramatic drop, but still a drop in the total number of days that were lost. The high school numbers are always going to be higher than the middle school numbers or anywhere else because they're older and the things they do to get suspended tend to be a little bigger. And then I just gave you the vaping stuff, the number of kids suspended, because that really is a pretty dramatic difference. The high school has been able, they put in last year vape detectors in bathrooms. That was something that I had experienced in my previous position that was a pretty large game changer, so they did see a drop. They didn't put those in. They became fully functional sort of late winter, spring, right? Judith, I'm looking at you. So we'll see this year how that is. In general, vaping seems to be coming down across the board, but the data I gave you, which said like 20-30% of kids got suspended, was not true, was wrong. Fake news. So this is the actual number that I wanted to make sure I said out loud in my report when I provided this to you. Okay? Any questions?
What happens when the vaping detector goes off? Is it like red lights or like what is?
No. So,
They don't know?
they're connected to, I assume it works the same, I think it's the same. They're connected to, you get an alert on your phone
Oh.
as the administrator.
Great.
And typically, running down there to catch them in the act is not what you do because you can't move that fast.
Yeah.
So what it is, it's connected to the camera system, so then you have an exact time, and then you can go and look at who was in there, and oftentimes it's one student. I remember the very first time that I caught somebody vaping at night outside of practice, it was the coach. So that was awkward. But anyway, I was like, wait, that's not a kid. That's not a kid coming out of the bathroom. So I left that to the AD to take care of. I didn't have to deal with it. But it's a little detective, but most of the time, every once in a while, you can't really tell. There's more than one kid in the bathroom, but most of the time you can.
Great.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but they are pretty sensitive that they don't actually have to be using the vape. It can detect it in your pocket or your backpack, and even from,
I don't know if it's just the presence of it, but
Yeah.
the kids started to try to like cover the vape detector or do it, somehow find a way, and it is very sensitive.
yeah.
So,
And yes, teachers need to know they are there too, or coaches.
Great, well, we'll see if those continue to come down then.
yes, that would be a goal.
Yeah.
I wanted to just make sure I notified you. We did apply, and I think we've talked about this before, but we actually need it documented in the minutes. We did apply for a state revolving loan fund for clean water projects through the DEP for the wastewater treatment plant. It is a 100% forgivable loan, so we won't actually be incurring any expenses. It's for $191,000. It will help to cover some of the work we've already done to, when we did all the testing to see if we could do a subsurface disposal. But that's not the full amount. It will also go to cover some other expenses. So that loan, who's our engineer?
Right, Pierce?
Wright Pierce has been doing the work to help us apply for that, to bring that money in. And then you have two things on the consent agenda, the emergency plans for this year, they've been revised and updated. I said this in my update to you in an email, but I wanted to say it out loud. The big goal this year is to run a full parent reunification drill with staff only, so not students. So we'll have to pick and choose, half days and workshop days to make sure that each school staff has a good sense of what that might look like if the school had to be evacuated, if there was a fire and they couldn't go back in and we had to move them to a different location, so that each school is prepared. The goal is to do all the reunifications with the exception of the high school at the high school, because then the high school staff can support them, and the plan is the same for all the schools. The high school will have a different reunification site and they'll run a drill as well. But that's the goal, to just keep it simple so that more people know how it's supposed to work than just the small number of people at each school.
So even the green leads.
Yes, we would, yep, because the reunification plans we had were really connected to buildings that may not have internet, are available in there, but may not have the full services that we need, especially when we have kids who have medical needs and things like that. Being able to access the resources of a school building is sort of what that goal is. And the high school would have staff available to assist in that reunification. So like here, there's one principal and then not really an assistant or other folks, so just having other people available to help with that. And then the other thing is the custodian job description's been updated. Now that we have head custodians and a facilities director, some of the language in the old job description was just really outdated. So those two positions prompted us to revise that. And then, in case you did not hear, Tyler Ham, our school resource officer, was named the 2023 Deputy Sheriff of the Year for Androscoggin County. It was very exciting, well-deserved, and I think our program got a big shout out when they did that award thing. Unfortunately, I wasn't there, I didn't know about it. If I'd known, I would've gone. But we got, so lots of positive feedback from the Androscoggin County, whoever, what do you call those people?
Sure.
Like the commissioners, yeah. So, very excited. Tyler is awesome and it's well deserved, so I wanted to share that.
Great. Any questions? Seeing none. We'll move on to the consent agenda. Remember, folks, anyone can essentially make a motion to pull an item here. Does anyone want to make a motion to pull any of the consent agenda items? Seeing none, we will entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda. With, again, these items are to be acted upon collectively. Item 8.1 is consideration and approval of policy committee recommended second reading and adoption of revised policy DJ, bidding purchase requirements and regulations, DJR, Federal Procurement Manual. 8.2, consideration and approval of policy committee recommended second reading and adoption of policy EEA, student transportation services. Consideration, item 8.3, consideration and approval of policy committee recommended second reading and adoption of revised policy JICC for student conduct on buses. Item number 8.4 is consideration and approval of policy committee recommended deletion of policy EEAA, which is walkers and riders. Item 8.5 is approval of the 2024 comprehensive emergency plans. And item 8.6 is approval of the job description for custodian. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda? Jamie, second. Go to Alex, sorry. And then, all those in favor? It's unanimous. Moving us on to old business. So, we heard a bit about this in the policy committee report, but we'll start, if someone would like to make a motion to charge the policy committee with the following purpose and responsibility: to review policy-related matters before the board in accordance with Maine Statute MRS Title 20A 1001, as well as MSAD52 Policy BG and Policy BGR. This includes the research of timely topics, the review of existing policies on a regular basis, drafting proposals for new or amended policies, and the recommendation to eliminate existing policies. All policy recommendations, new, amended, eliminations, or otherwise, shall be brought to the board for consideration. Anyone like to make that motion? Crystal, second. Jamie? Discussion. Jamie, you want to start it off?
Yeah. Can I make a motion to amend that? This is what we discussed in committee tonight, and Anthony wasn't there, but I give that in my report. We took into consideration some of Anthony's edits as well. And Teresa has the official thing. Can you read that to us? Thank you.
To review policy-related matters before the board in accordance with Maine Statute MRS Title 20A 1001, as well as the MSAD 52 Policy BG and Policy BGR. Policies will serve as a framework for the successful and efficient functioning of the school district. Policy review shall include the research of timely topics, the review of existing policies on a regular basis, drafting and reviewing proposals for new or amended policies, and the recommendation to delete existing policies. All policy recommendations, new, amended, deleted, or otherwise, shall be brought to the board for consideration.
So that's the proposed amendment. Is there a second to that? Okay, so now discussing the amendment. Any particular additional discussion you want to add to that amendment?
Sure. You had originally put in the word eliminate existing policies. We just took that out and changed it because, as Anthony pointed out, policy BG uses the word delete, so it made sense to just keep it the same. And then we added, after drafting, it also says and reviewing, because we don't, other people besides just the committee can draft policies as well, so we can also review policies that have been drafted by others. And then we just thought, after the workshop, she had kind of talked about goals and kind of the purpose of what your committee is there for, and so we thought adding in the line policies will serve as a framework for the successful and efficient functioning of the school district. Like, that's kind of the purpose of our committee, is for that, so we just added in that line.
Anyone else have thoughts on this? Anthony, I know you had submitted comments and you were at the meeting tonight. I don't know if you were in agreement with some of this.
Yeah, do you have a written form here that I
I
can
do,
look
it's
over?
right here.
Thanks.
Yeah, and, so this was the original one, and then this is the edit, and, then your suggestions are.
Right.
If there is a desire for more substantive review, we can push this another meeting if people want to think about it some more. We've done that with a few others.
I'm
Any-
okay.
Anyone else have thoughts? What do you think, Anthony? You want some more time, or are you prepared to act?
I think that's all right.
Okay. Sounds good. If there's no further discussion, we can vote on the amendment. All those in favor? Okay. That is unanimous, so it's been amended, but now we still need to actually approve the amended charge. So all those in favor of the amended charge? That is unanimous. Okay. The next one is item 9.2, which is a motion to charge the curriculum committee with the following purpose and responsibility, which is to review curriculum-related matters before the board in accordance with Maine Statute MRS Title 20A 1001, as well as MSAD 52 Policy IGA and Policy IJJC. This includes taking a leadership role in the establishment and evaluation of the educational direction of the school unit in conjunction with the strategic plan. This work will be done through the review of administration recommendations, educational materials, and courses of study. All curriculum recommendations shall be brought to the board for consideration. Would someone like to make that motion? Ashley, second? Crystal? Discussion around this charge. I think this is the revised language that the curriculum committee developed at their meeting. Is that correct? So is there any further discussion on this charge? Okay, well, seeing none. All those in favor? That is unanimous. And we'll move on to 9.3, which is a motion to charge the Plant Transportation Building Committee with the following purpose and responsibility: to review the management and provide for the custody and care of school property, transportation, and facilities in accordance with Maine Statute MRS Title 20A 1001. This includes coordination with administration on current transportation and facility issues, as well as the development of a long-range plan for facilities, grounds, transportation, and capital needs. The committee shall bring proposed capital projects to the board and shall update the board on capital improvement plan developments.
So moved.
Anthony, second Alex. Discussion. I believe this is also the language that was recommended by PTV. Correct? Sorry, you're the only one. Peter's not
Peter's
there.
not on.
No, Anthony's here now.
Oh, Anthony is here now
I
too,
think-
yeah.
I think you missed the meeting where we altered it. Were you at the last meeting?
No.
Right, so Alex really is the last one.
Okay, looks good.
All right. Any other discussion? Okay, all those in favor? That is unanimous. Move on to item 9.4. This is a motion to charge the negotiations committee with the following purpose and responsibility, which is to review and negotiate employment contracts before the board in accordance with Maine Statute MRS A 1001. This includes the need to meet and discuss employment issues with members of the administration and to negotiate collective bargaining agreements. The committee will regularly update the board and bring all negotiated agreements to the board for approval. So a motion on the floor.
Second.
Jamie, seconded by Anthony.
Anthony?
Jamie. Discussion around this. Seeing none, all those in favor? Okay. was unanimous. Great, we're through that, that's nice. On to new business. And our first item tonight is a presentation by the Leeds Central School Principal Bartash.
So this is a little longer than I had anticipated, but we have a lot to explain about Tier 3. So there's two coming around. One is the color thing that you'll see on the screen, but you really can't see it on the screen that well. And the other is a copy of the slides. So there's been a lot of change at Leeds in the last year. But I want to start out with who we are.
Yes, this is backup. I think Kyle's gonna get one and need one for the official record, so that's why I'm sorting copies. I just like the paper.
So I'm going to start with who we are. We are a great group of kids. This is a fun school. I've loved this whole time that I've been with them and just so many things about it. As you're leaving, take a look at our screen. You can see a lot more pictures of the kids that have just happened this year. They're the students. They're our reason for being here. That graphic's not showing. We have 192 students. We have 18 in pre-K. Our largest group is 34 students in 4th grade. So, and we house the Functional Life Skills Program. This is one of our students on field day who just had total joy with the activity that she got to do. We have 18 students now with various levels of support required to meet their needs. And thankfully, we have the addition of Melinda Blair, who will be starting on the 30th as our second Functional Life Skills Program, our Functional Skills Program teacher, which hopefully will make the balance a little easier there for them. At Leeds we have multi-grade classes because of the numbers. So we had fluctuations in lower numbers of classes and higher numbers of classes. Wanted to try to look and keep class sizes smaller so that it was a little more equitable. So we have a lot of multi-grades. So we set this up in the spring where the teachers took a look at data and tried to make balanced classrooms. So we have our pre-K that meets twice a week for 2 days. And we have a straight kindergarten classroom, and then I have one classroom that is kindergarten and 1st grade. I have just a straight 1st grade classroom, a straight 2nd grade classroom, another classroom that's 2-3, and I have a 3-4, and I have a straight 4, and I have 3 classrooms that are 5-6 multi-grade. So what this gives us the opportunity to do is target the strengths and needs of the students. So the 5th grade, for example, is not only getting them ready for the middle school where before they were all together, but they're able to take and pull the higher kids and the lower kids and have them and focus on the needs like in math, in literacy. But they're still spending all the time with their peers in a homeroom group, which breaks up some of our kids that have been together since pre-K. It's like a family, but you don't have a lot, I mean, they're brothers and sisters fighting a lot. But this gives them the opportunity to separate, to meet with other people, and it also gives us another opportunity to kind of use our resources a little better in putting our Title I people working with special ed, doing a push-in model and pull out when we have to, but trying to push in as much as we can. So it just gets our kids where we can focus on their needs better. Our staff, we have a great staff. This we did to get, because there were so many new people, and I'll run through the new people real quick. But we decided, just kind of a team building activity, we took and looked at the district mission and vision, and we wanted to kind of talk about what we were here at Leeds. We brainstormed, we found qualities that we liked, we talked about, we didn't want these to just be words. That if we're respect, then we're gonna show respect. And then we even had an example come right up in as we were doing it. Someone pointed out that there were lots of side conversations going on, and that might not be as respectful, and we wouldn't want that for our kids. And so now we're kind of working on holding each other accountable for this. So when we're in staff, is this being kind? Is this being compassionate? Just kind of, it's stuff that we know, but it's stuff that we can use to kind of be better as a team. These I'm just going to run through. We have a new kindergarten teacher, a new 2nd grade teacher, 2-3, Kayla Hutchinson she was an ed tech that worked her way up to become a teacher. Delaney Houston was a student teacher here last year. She's phenomenal. They're all phenomenal, actually. Lindsay Gilbert is our new school nurse. Jack Dodd is our new music teacher. Carolyn Panado, thank you very much. I begged all last year for an instructional coach. I have one. She's amazing, and we're gonna do great things. Christine Brown is our new resource room teacher. She's doing the younger grades. Stacy Leclaire is doing 5-6 technology. She's here for 1 day a week with us. I also have a guidance counselor this year, which is amazing. So Joan Turtelot. Allie Eastler, her office is right there. She's with us from Spurwink. And Melinda Blair is our new special ed teacher. So we, with substitutes and long-term subs, the Leeds were fully staffed with all of our coverage, which is great. We've got some amazing subs. I don't know why my pictures didn't come out.
I know, that's very sad, they're good pictures.
That is sad. So because we're new, we're doing a lot of staff building, team building. So over in this corner, this was a nice picture of Sarah McClellan. She was nominated by a colleague as being the person of the week, just for being very inclusive. And so each week, people can turn it into me who they want, and then we do something special for that person. Last week, this was a picture over here. You can see it in your thing, but not up here. I'm hoping I'll see some of my pictures.
Yeah, we can. They're
And
here,
yeah,
they're just not
I'm
there.
hoping I can see them up here. Last week, it was Friday the 13th, so we did a cereal killer bar. I went out and bought all the cereals that I wasn't allowed to have as a child, put them out, and we had different sources of milk, and it just got the teachers into our new conference room. So if you haven't got to go in there, we have a conference room. They were all in there just having an opportunity to talk with each other, get to know each other, because even though it's a small building, they're on 2 separate wings, and it got them all in there, and they were so happy to get some Cocoa Puffs and Captain Crunch. So, one of the other things I'm doing is, this right here is I've started a new communication. It's called SMORE, and so it's newsletters that I send out, and I also send it out to the staff. And this is one that I had asked them, you know, how are you feeling getting ready? Because there's so many of us. And it gives me a breakdown of, you know, everybody, there were a lot of changes. People were a little nervous, but optimistic, excited, but ready to go. Nobody said that they were dreading the year, which is good. We're also using talking stick reflection. So I'll talk a little bit later coming up about restorative practices, but our staff meetings typically start, we're sitting in a circle, and I find a quote that we can all relate to, and we just kind of go around the room and talk about what that quote might mean to us. And it gives us kind of a temperature where our colleagues are. So some of them are responding positively, some not, and then it kind of gives us an idea of how to support them through the day. Tier 3, that's what most of my talk is going to be about. So when I first started, I found out about a month after I started that we were Tier 3. I didn't even know what Tier 3 was, but we didn't have any funding. This year we're Tier 3, but we have some funding. So I had an opportunity to get, you know, being here for a little bit, kind of understand what was going on, and this summer really got to dive in. So I'm gonna go through what I'm understanding of the data. Carrie and I found a discrepancy in the state data, which I was not able to get answered prior to this, but I'll show you where that is. This is the paper that you have in front of you. Red is not good. This is how we got qualified for state assistance. So we, chronic absenteeism, and I'll explain that, academic progress and achievement in English language arts, and math, academic progress and achievement. There were some areas that we were doing okay in. Our economically disadvantaged students are they're doing good in math, and our students with disabilities were meeting some of their goals. There was a whole formula of how they qualified us. I think Teresa went over it a little bit last time, maybe, because I didn't know prepared. It's looking at all of these factors, and it's primarily the chronic absenteeism that put us over the top to get the funding. So I'm going to kind of go through, explain some definitions to the best of my ability, and answer questions as I can. But we have started a plan. We have applied for a school improvement grant, and right now we've just submitted our substantial approval so that they can look at it, kind of see what our initial plan is, and see if they will release some of the funds so that we can start paying for some stuff. So by doing that, we had to complete a comprehensive need assessment. That's about 28 pages of where we looked at everything about Leeds Central School. Attendance, about scores, about how we do things. And that was several summer days of our leadership team. And our next step right now is we're starting to dig into root cause analysis of why these things are happening. Our leadership team is a little larger than it would be if we weren't Tier 3. We have PLC leaders, so I have a representative from pre-K through 1. I have a representative for grades 2 through 4 and 5, 6. I have special education voice on there. I have unified arts. I'm on there. Teresa stops in and checks in on us, and we have a coach assigned to us from the state, Linda St. Andre, who kind of makes sure that we're on task and moving forward as we need to be and answers our questions.
She was my mentor when I started administration.
Oh, she's lovely.
I love her. That makes me so happy.
Good. So this is kind of starting our plan. We have goals in attendance and literacy and math. So we are focusing on attendance as our big one. We are still looking at literacy and math, but if we can't get the kids to school, it doesn't matter how well we're doing in literacy and math. My pictures are not showing up. This is so not cool. Anyways, you get the picture there. So I'm gonna show you the state has goals for us. They're on a trajectory to get us where they want us to be. Our staff has looked at them and they weren't high enough for us. So we felt that we could make a 3% improvement overall. And I'll explain that. Chronic absenteeism, define that first, is students that are enrolled a minimum of 10 days and have missed 10%. So right now, if you look with all the flu and strep going around, I probably have a lot of chronic absenteeism. But it's 10% of however many days they're enrolled. And all absences count. So it's the excused absences, it's the unexcused absences that feed into that number. Then we take and we break it down into all students. So we were 13.9%. So with our 3% change, we'd like to get it to 10.9%. The state would like us at 10% or lower. We are focusing on our economically disadvantaged students. They, 28.6% chronic absenteeism with them. And there's a lot of factors with that. And our students with disabilities have 15.4%. So our goal is 10% or less, but this is what we're focusing on, that straight 3% for the first year. 10% is by the end, yes.
You mentioned the state had a more modest goal than the 3%. What was that?
They didn't set one for chronic absenteeism. I'm gonna share with you the literacy and math. They didn't really give us a goal, they just want us at 10%.
Okay.
But the other one does more of a trajectory of where they want us.
Some of the students who are not making it to school, is this miss the bus, parents aren't home, kid now sits home alone, or are we able to get transportation there to get them? Do we know, or we can't get a hold of anybody to see if the kid is home alone, or?
So that's what we're looking at, is the root cause analysis. So this is where I'm taking, did you want to, before I jump on?
Oh, yeah, I just wanted to say, like, I'm not sure if the students with disabilities one, I would expect their chronic absenteeism to be higher because you just said that they're, it's excused or unexcused absences, and we know our students with disabilities are going to miss school for medical reasons more than other students. So maybe a 3% goal on that one wouldn't necessarily, it wouldn't be a red flag to me if we couldn't get that one lower, I guess is what I'm saying.
But not all students with disabilities have medical issues.
No, absolutely,
Right.
but I'm just saying, like, you would expect some of them to be absent from it. It always bothers me that, like, if a student has surgery and is out for, a week because of surgery, like, it goes, you get a chronic absenteeism letter,
I think I'm trying to just hit it our all students all together.
Yeah.
And then the subgroups are broken out. So if we can get all of them,
Yeah.
we'd love to get the others, but
Yeah.
just the overall 10% or under would be great.
It's always just a pet peeve of mine. Like, we can't send the kid in the hospital to school.
We agree.
This may not really be a question for you, but it strikes me as strange that the state is concerned that excused absences, for instance, from illness, are included in this, right? So clearly, if they want the number down and they're sending out one signal that says don't go to school when you're sick so that you don't get everybody else sick, and then they undermine that with, well, we want you to be in school, it just strikes me as a strange mixed message.
It's also vacations, and so that's kind of all lumped in here, but I
Some of those
agree.
get more complicated though, right? You're looking at individual students, so you may have a student who is, the parents are calling them out sick, frequently excused, and you start to notice a pattern where they're not sick, or, you know, they've gone to the fair, but the parents call them out sick. So it becomes much more narrow to like specific students, you know. The vast majority of kids, when they're not at school, they're sick, right? So there's not an issue. So it really becomes sort of like looking at each student, looking at the root cause, look at what's actually happening.
So that's what we're starting to do as a staff, and this is gonna take a little while for us. So what I did is ask each of the PLC leaders to go back and ask their team why do we think, and this is not digging into the data yet, but this is why do we think students are out? And we came up with illnesses, which sometimes, because we have such a lot of, because of our number of economically disadvantaged students, it could be, you know, stress or trauma related. Family vacations, unwilling to attend because they don't want to come. Behaviors, McKinney-Vento students and transient students. We have some students that we know, well, we don't know, but sometimes they're here for a short period of time and then they've moved someplace else.
What exactly are McKinney-Vento students?
Those are students that are homeless, and so there's laws that kind of protect that, you know, they can still go to their same school. So we had a student,
So is that the name of the law?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
sorry.
I just was curious on where that,
Heidi Poulin is the coordinator for the district.
yeah, no, I just, yeah,
Yeah.
no,
No, I'm
I
just
was
saying
just
that.
curious what the McKinney-Vento
Yeah.
came from.
So then I asked the staff to start channeling their inner 3-year-old. I want them to ask why 5 times. So, you know, why, what can we do about the illness? At first they're like, well, we can't do anything about illness. And then so we started talking about why. And then people started coming up with ideas of, we have our new nurse. She is going into classrooms and she's going to start doing hand washing lessons. She's going to start teaching them to sneeze here instead of here. Student engagement, so we've been doing a lot of things to try to get more student engagement because we don't have as much control over our students driving themselves to school. But if we can get them to say, Mom, I don't want to do this, I want to go to school because we've got this going on. Attendance plans, so those that we still can't get to come, we'll say we have an attendance team now because last year it was just me. But we have people now, so we'll sit and talk to parents. We have our counselor that can reach out and say, what do you need? How can we support you in getting your student to school? Changing the climate here. Some of the behaviors were prohibitive for students wanting to come to school, and just changing that. And community connections, because we have, you know, so many students that might be disadvantaged economically. We have the church that's giving us bags of food, but that's like once a week or once every other week, and that's really not helping some of them. So our counselor wants to reach out to try to find other resources for those students. So I'm gonna go through some of, yeah.
Question on the family vacations, are some families kind of being, I don't wanna say lectured, but talked to about family vacations taking place during the year in a way that would be negative?
I approve all of, so if you're only going for 5 days and we're here 175 days, that doesn't put you chronically absent. I think we were talking it as an administrative team of, you know, we're approving them, but it's, it's hard, we're in a dilemma.
I wouldn't say it's a lecturing. I think oftentimes we just try to make sure that people understand what the consequence of it, right? The older students get, the harder it is to miss school, right? And I know I'm trying to make sure that we're protecting teachers a little bit by not making them provide lots of work while the kids are gone, so then the kids come back and they've got stuff to do. So I think it's just this dilemma. It's a dilemma of, yep, of course we want families to go and be together and do fun things, and that's great. And then the consequence of like not being there and missing that time, and how, you know, making sure we balance that burden for staff to sort of get kids caught up in that. So it's not a simple It's not a simple thing.
I'm not gonna argue, I'm not gonna,
No, we don't, we do not argue with him. You're going on vacation, you're going on vacation.
I might be jealous.
Change when our breaks are, so we fall during the cheaper time.
You guys set the calendar, so how about you put that on the list?
There we go, we'll just move our,
Just-
you know,
we'll
we
just
don't have to be
change
like the rest
vacation
of the
days. I'm gonna
Northeast.
put you in front of me, Peter, when we do that, so
Hey,
that you take the first line
If that isn't
flyer.
a state guideline, I have no problem with
The
that.
state does not set our calendar,
So
we do.
switch it by a couple weeks, and it's
Yeah.
amazing the price difference.
There we go,
It really
it's true,
is.
there we go.
So some of the things we're already talking about implementing to look at the health and illness is, like I said, Nurse Lindsay is scheduling visits. She's kind of bringing us back to remembering our COVID health basics of, you know, washing the hands, washing down the surfaces. She's offered masks to some students that feel they want them if a kid's sneezing next to them. She's also giving individual lessons to students because the nurse's office has moved back in. And so when a student comes out from using the restroom and they just kind of stick their hands under, she's like, oh, no, 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 or if they just put it on there. So she's giving them lessons on how to wash their hands and explaining why. And we'll be providing like notes and reminders home in newsletters to help with communication. Attendance with climate, we're working with restorative practices. So it's taking and teaching and a teaching and learning approach that focuses on building. So it's moving away from punitive to a restorative. So if I have a student that has like thrown food all across the cafeteria, instead of like having a punishment and poor Chip having to go clean it up, we're having the student go clean it up and then talking with Chip or whoever had to clean it up or whoever might have to clean it up to say, how does that student's behavior impact them? So we're working on students doing that with students, and we have someone coming in and he's gonna model it for our student ambassadors, our Eagle ambassadors, so that they can start doing some problem solving. So it's rebuilding and repairing the relationships that kids have with kids and that students have with adults as well in the building. So it's truly that fresh start. But they're repairing that and they're repairing the relationship that they have to try to change that. I'm losing all of my cool documents. I'm not happy, but some of them stayed. Climate, we're doing some professional development around reinforcing behaviors. That picture that was there is our best nest variety that's out here. So we're using a positive interventions to support the kids. So they're getting, it's over here, all my pictures. Getting Eagle tickets. So if we see someone doing a positive behavior, we're not saying you're being a really good girl, you're being a really good boy. I'm saying, you know what, I really like how you were walking in the hallway today. Or I really like how you remembered to do this today. For the behavior. So they've got these individual ones, they tear it in half. Half of it goes home to the families. It says, even on there, ask me why Ms. Bartash thinks that I'm safe, responsible, or respectful. And I try to circle one of those. For the younger kids, if I can, I write it on the back because they don't remember. And for the older kids, hopefully they remember. But when a staff member gives it to them, they're saying, you were being safe by picking up that piece of paper so nobody tripped on it. And then this part can be spent or saved in the Eagle store. And it's not just tangible items. So we had one student save quite a few. And then he got to star in one of the commercials that advertises it. So, or they can have lunch with me, or they can help, they love to help Mr. Chip do stuff around the school. So they can earn that. The Golden Eagle Award is if I'm seeing a whole class walking down the hall beautifully, or they lined up beautifully, they can get that for their whole class. And there's quarterly competitions for that. We announce that, and then they can win an ice cream sundae party for their class. The 5th and 6th graders last year were the ones that surprised me the most. I thought they're not gonna get into this. They were getting competitive. And the picture that was that's here, is a young man that we kind of stepped it up even a little bit more for him. It's a picture of Tyler Ham, and this young man earns, if he can come inside, not touch people, and not get written up. We've now cut Tyler into 12 pieces. That was only 6 pieces. He gets a piece of that. And then Tyler comes over, spends time with this little guy, and goes out and plays soccer with him. So this is like his goal. He's sticking those pieces on there, and I think he's probably like 8 towards the new 12, because I had to cut, it was too easy to achieve last time, but it was the end of the year, so. Working on student engagement. we're having assemblies, we're gonna have students of the month. So if your child gets selected, we're also surprising them and inviting you in to try to get more engagement from families. Class celebrations, school celebrations. The 5th and 6th grade, the 6th grade team, Mr. Lever's room is focusing on writing because each one of those 3 teachers, one is focusing on math, one's focusing on reading, and he's focusing on writing. He's gonna be working on a podcast for us, and he's gonna be working on a school newspaper for us that we can start putting out. We're starting some more school clubs. We've had Lego League. There's enough interest in that we may have 2 Lego League teams this year. We have a building club that started by one of our ed techs. She's just going to have kids come and build Legos once a week. And Mr. Buster, that got announced earlier, is starting Coloroki, where he's going to have kids come in and he's going to have coloring activities for them, and they'll all have a turn to sing karaoke. Just as a fun, getting them to read the words, comprehend the words, be together. And then Mrs. Getty, our GT teacher, is starting the last block to do a drama club, and we're hoping to do presentations for us. Family engagement, we're gonna have a family night coming up October 8th. It's part of our Title I, but we're inviting everybody in this time because our whole school is Title I. We have student-led conferences, Touch a Truck, that went over so well last year. We had all these cool trucks come. The kids did a great job. They got to go out and touch it. We had we had an ambulance come. I'm gonna brag, it was my daughter, but like a week after that, we had a student that we had to call rescue for, and he was very nervous. And we just reminded him, remember, you were in an ambulance last week, and it's the same thing. And you could just see some of the stress go from his face. So we kind of want to change the Touch a Truck and add like the career fair level to that, so that they can see, okay, this is a cool truck. How do I get to be in that cool truck and drive that cool truck? Increased communications. I wasn't very good at that last year, but you're going to be hearing a lot from me about once a month, which will include communications from our counselor, our instructional coach, PE, the nurse, and then our grade spans are going to put out a unified letter from each of them, and then the classrooms. We've also implemented safer drop-off and pick-off procedures. It used to be everybody was just out there. Stressed me out. So now we've got a tag system. You've got a tag, we call your student, and they go right into the car, and nobody's standing out there with moving cars. And today I talked with Count Me in Maine, and there's a lot of possibilities there that they'll come help us dig into the data of our attendance. What is really happening and what are their suggestions? And then that's like a scaffolding approach. They'll give us a lot of support the first year, and then we can back it off by the 3rd year that we're in this tier 3. We should be able to do this all on our own. Any questions on attendance before we dive into this one? That's the work we've done so far. We're still doing more. So the next part is a little more confusing because it does give those goals from the state. So there's some definitions. This is back to my teacher days. We have progress, we have achievement, and we have proficiency. So we're going to look at each of those. And so Carrie and I were talking through it today because I was trying to explain it to her. The progress is like the individual progress. So if I'm on a team, that's like my personal record. That's the one I'm personally trying to get better at. And then the achievement is trying to get my team to get that overall medal. And then the proficiency is based on what the state wants us to be. So this is where we're at with ELA. So the state wanted us to have the achievement of 64.7% meeting our goals. 47.3 did, meeting the overall team achievement. So we did not meet that. We did not, our economically disadvantaged did not meet that. They wanted us 51.5. And then our students with disabilities, we did not meet it there as well. Individual progress, we were definitely rocking it. I mean, our students with disabilities, 96.6% of them met their individual goals. They met their personal records. So we're getting there with the individual progress.
So does that mean the individual goals are less than what the state goals are?
Yeah, so it might be, I only need to make 3 to make my goal, because that's where I need to be. Someone else might need to meet, get further to get that goal where they want everybody to be. So here's the bar, I might be this far, someone else might be this far from it. And they, NWEA, who does the thing, kind of has their whole writ system to assign
So
that to
each
people.
student is like starting at their own place, so the progress is dependent upon where they started.
Yes,
So if they're already starting lower because they have a disability or something, their progress, they might make great progress and still not be proficient, but they've made a ton of progress.
Question on one of the criteria on the Department of Education chart, which classifies students by white. Demographically, so it says all students at 95%, then it has 95.5% of whites. So some of the numbers seem off. What's like, or
So-
you're not addressing it here, so I'm just
no, I'm
curious.
not addressing the white part because we're mostly white, so I dropped that one off because it does almost meet all of our students and the categories were so low, that's why I left that one off.
Like the number's so low that we can't even get a broken out data on non-white, because there's so few.
And they just include this on here for all schools.
Yeah, that's just a chart for
So
every
other
single
schools might have
100%. Other
Portland
schools that
School
have more
will have
Yeah, have a whole
particulars,
bunch,
you might
yeah.
set, you might have like a particular racial group that's lower, that is just something you gotta pay attention to.
So this is kind of how they want us to get where, this is the increments that they want us. So these are like between 1% and 2%. When I showed that to the staff, they were almost embarrassed if I were to say that we were only gonna try to make a 1% or 2% goal. So we did the 3% goal overall. So this is the proficiency, and this is where we were in 2023, and this is where they want us to be by the end. So this trajectory would get us to the goal, which is, I'm still having a hard time with it, because their goal, they want us at 90%. And so that trajectory is going to take a really long time. I'm probably not gonna be here. Probably.
None of us.
But I mean, if we can make 3%, where this is like less than 2%, if we can make 3 and keep making advances on that, then we can get towards 90% is crazy. I mean, I thought they were gonna say 80%, which I thought was still a lofty goal, and she said, no, it's 90, because we had a big meeting today with all the tier 3 schools and the representatives from the state.
But I think what I remember is those are the percentages that you need to meet to get off of this list.
Yes,
Right, okay.
yeah. That's the goal, is to get off the list, to go down a little bit. So we're getting the most support, and to go back down. So it's moving our economically disadvantaged and our students with disabilities. So we're gonna just shoot for 3%, because we think we can do it, because we're awesome. So- And then the same thing, literacy, here's what we're doing. We have a new new literacy materials called Into Reading. We're just now learning about those. Those are gonna help us with building knowledge and language, foundational skills, reading, communications. And because of the funding from the grant, we're gonna be able to get additional training for our school, because we have all these multi-grades, kind of help us. The trainer that came, she's like, oh yeah, we do that from other places. So she's gonna come back and help us how to adjust, how to look at what we're doing and where we're at. Because we had started panicking, like how are we gonna do kindergarten and first grade, or how am I gonna do second and third? And so she was the one kind of helping us make those adjustments that we carried over. And the same thing with math, although our economically disadvantaged students did meet their achievement, or did meet the achievement goal. It's the numbers in these charts that are slightly off from what's in the paper with all the red dots, and Carrie caught that number. I thought it was a typo because I'm not the greatest typist. I'm still waiting on an answer from the state on what the difference is, why it's in one place one way, why it's in another the other place. So I'll find that out. And then math, where I have representation from the building that's gonna be looking at any kind of math programs that we're using or might want to implement. We're gonna be getting a lot of increased data training to target areas of need. We've already started doing that. The instructional coach, she also teaches a college course on looking at data, so I couldn't have asked for a better one. She's gonna help us look at the data to kind of drill down the areas that we need to fill in before we can move the students on. And strategic placement, we've already talked about that. So this is where the state wants us to go. Again, it's the between 1% and 2%, but we're gonna do 3. Hopefully we'll even do more, but we're gonna set the goal at just a lot of really looking at the data. She's already starting to go into the PLCs that meet once a week. We have a structure for them, so we want them to look at data for math one week. Another week it'll be looking data for students. So we're gonna be doing the progress monitoring on all 3 of our areas, so that we're not just analyzing it at the end. We don't want an autopsy, we want progress monitoring, to see if we need to make adjustments. So a lot of our things are like, we're gonna look at 6-week cycles. If it's working, we'll go. If it's not, we'll look at the data and we'll adjust. Any question?
So this is proficiency based on what exam?
The proficiency is from the state. So they want us to, they have a mark when we get our results back. We've got meets standards and exceeds standards, so they want that number to be meeting or exceeding.
Right.
It's on the main through year assessment,
Oh,
which is the
sorry.
new state test. We started it last year. We'll finally have the data ready for you at the next meeting for the district.
And that's given how many times a year? Just
You
once?
do it in the fall because you do get a progress. So you take it in the fall and you take it in the spring to get a progress number, but the one in spring is the one that gives you the proficiency number, like are the kids at grade level.
Right.
So we haven't taken the fall yet, so then we'll have that data in the fall.
When do we take?
The window opens soon. We're even structuring, so I think we have leeway in the buildings on when we wanna take it. We're trying to make it a big deal, putting it out to parents why it's important for your student to take it, to get a good night's sleep, have some good breakfast before, so nobody has a rumbling tummy as they're trying to figure out, reading this passage if it's long. So we're trying to narrow down a 1-week period where we can take it. We don't wanna be at the very beginning, cause that's when all the computer problems happen, but we don't wanna be in the end, because we're also looked at the percentage of students that we have taking it. So I wanna give ourselves like a week or so to make sure we get everybody that's supposed to take it to take it.
So all schools take it at the same time? No, well,
In the same window.
I know, but all schools are taking it.
Yes, correct, 100%, yeah. It's required.
Except for Turner Primary School.
Oh, yeah, they're not
It's
tested.
grades
Oh,
3 through
okay, yeah,
8.
yeah, yeah.
My question is, because this is a state exam, does this align with report cards? Like, this makes me so sad. And that, and I don't mean it towards you
No,
at all,
no,
because this is
just
obviously
seeing that
something that's been,
we have a lot of work.
a lot of work and a lot of heavy lifting. So do you feel like it's also representative of like what?
No.
Okay, and that's really interesting, because I had a private conversation about an 8th grader who took this last year.
We see much higher proficiency based off of other tests that are taken than the state test.
Okay, that makes me feel a little bit better. And is there anything, like parental involvement, is this something that, like, kids should be getting progress reports? If you're like, if there's exams, or not exams, but like quizzes or whatever at like the 5th, 6th grade level, and the kiddos don't look like they're meeting the mark, I mean, I would love a progress report from time to time to say, hey, Lauren's not meeting this writing proficiency or math, like she's struggling, anyway. Just to bring parents in to have just like,
We've been talking about progress reports. I'm hoping, and what I'm communicating with my teachers is if they're seeing your student not doing well in something, that long before the report card or long before the conference, that they've reached out to you and said, hey, I'm seeing that she's really struggling with comprehension, here's some ideas, or we're gonna have her work with some of our Title I interventionists, here's some things we're doing. But encouraging the staff to really reach out and talk to the parents, and this is what we're seeing struggles.
because I think there's a lot of families that would be sad, like not like, I don't think it's something to be necessarily angry about, like, but clearly some heavy lifting has to be done. And I think parents, homework, all that stuff is
part of what I have to do for the grant requirements is after I presented it here, I have to present it, I have to explain it to parents in
Okay.
the community, and I think what we're gonna do as part of that, Title I night on October 8th, I'll have this that I can explain and try to do it in a letter form, but
Okay.
I haven't gotten that yet.
Thank you for being here.
Yeah,
And we
giving
wrapped it up in a
updates.
really nice package with a really nice bow on it for you.
Welcome.
Actually, it was more like a trash can that was on fire, but it's okay.
It's a great school.
Thank
We're
you
gonna
for
do
being
it.
It's not a trash
We're
can
gonna
on
do-
fire, it's on
Not
fire, but
anymore.
not a trash
It's
can.
smoldering now.
Right,
It's-
yes.
It's
We're
good.
making some great progress.
You are,
Yes.
And
and
some
thank you.
great
I
staff.
appreciate it.
And the students we're making some great progress here, so
I know, it's gonna look different next year.
I'm gonna get rid of some room.
Looks like this year.
The tier 3 classification brings us more funding for a lot of these programs. And that is committed for a few years.
It's supposed to be for 3 years. We can only use the money for professional development, so I can't hire another staff member. I can't order a new set of books. It has to be for professional development, to kind of help us, like at the tier 1 level and getting, our basic instruction better, and then some of the tier 2 and tier 3.
Some of, like, your leadership team is larger than any other elementary school, so some of the money is being used for that. They meet more frequently than the other schools, so the money is being used for that, for paying teachers for that time, the summer stuff that you did, so.
Yeah. The other
Sometimes you just
buildings
need people more time wrestling with all this.
And our meetings are, we get a lot done. We have to report, our report out has to go to the state every time I do it. And so we've got a long running agenda of, here's what we've covered. Some of it is like basic building stuff, and some of it is how are we gonna dig in, and look at the root cause. So we're just starting to scratch that, and digging into more about what's the root cause of that. And then we'll tackle literacy and math, but like I said, if we can't get them here.
So do they reevaluate us every year in that classification? So
Yeah.
we could potentially get out of tier 3, but still maintain the funding for a couple of years?
It's gonna be harder than that to get out of the tier 3.
Like,
I think
Yeah.
you're on it for 3
You're on it
years.
for 3
You're on it for 3 years.
That's my
Regardless,
understanding.
they're
No
not
dismissing
No matter what,
anybody.
you're on it for 3 years.
and you come off by meeting the state's goals?
We come off by, so there's categories it's the attendance, it's the math, it's the literacy. So if we come off in one, then we might not need to be a tier 3. And then so if we can come off in the attendance, then we can kind of shift to the literacy and the math. But, so we might not be tier 3 for that, but we'll still, they wanna set us up to succeed. So like that, the Count Me In, giving us those tools to like dig into the data, find out what's wrong with it, find out how we can change it, less support the second year, and then the third year we're on our own.
And this may be not necessarily a question for you, maybe more for Carrie, but Leeds is the only tier 3 school we have.
That's true, right?
Yes.
Yeah, sorry.
But we have some other tier 2 schools, and we're tier 3 because we're not meeting our goals in all categories. But some of our tier 2 schools is because it's 1 or 2 categories.
Right,
That's
so
makes
you would
sense.
see this report for another school, and there'd be some blue triangles, some red, some, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
It would
it's
just
just
be a
wouldn't
little
be
bit
all
more
red. We're only
variety.
tier 3 because it's all
Correct.
red. Yeah.
Correct, yeah. And actually, what you can also see on this is there's some blue dots there in terms of participation rate, and that was one of those things where Shannon, being a new principal, like, making sure high enough percentage of the kids take the test, right? So there was a lower percentage than what the state expects to make sure you take the test, and without enough staff to sort of chase kids and make sure, wait, who missed the test? And that's a whole nother process at every school of like identifying which kids haven't finished, and then how you're gonna make sure they finish. And last year just was not the capacity of the building, and like there was way bigger issues and fish to fry than sort of chasing the handful of kids who hadn't finished the testing.
So I'm not a fan of red. Blue's my favorite color.
Yeah.
We like triangles.
Triangles are good. I'm just gonna go for blue next year, and then we'll go for triangles in the next year.
We take some orange.
Orange is
I
good.
like blue.
All right, does anyone have any other questions or thoughts? Well, thank you, and I look forward to an update, hopefully with more fun colors. So, that'll bring us back here. Item 10.2, which, well, last time we identified our delegate representative. And this time, we have the discussion of the 2024 proposed resolutions by the MSBA Delegate Assembly. I don't know if anyone is more particularly up to speed on these. Are you, did you get a chance to review?
I did my homework.
Okay, very good. I've flipped through them, but I don't know if I could just start presenting, so.
Yeah, the first ones are just resolutions proposed for deletion, so these are no longer needed, as it says. I looked through them, nothing really like super significant, it just looks like they're outdated. Proposed revisions, most of them are just based on like time, like this isn't the 129th session of the legislature anymore, so cross that one out. The school safety, the first sentence is new, that's all I noticed. That it urges local school boards to be increasingly vigilant in seeking to promote a safe school culture, that's a new sentence in that one. The state assessment one, the big change in that one was that it defines like a specific length of time. So before it didn't give a specific length of time, but this one says, you know, you have 5 years, like for no less than 5 years. That was the only major difference I saw in that one. If anyone else has read through these and noticed anything more, let me know.
Well, I actually, with that one, I didn't understand why they were deleting the business employment of student paragraph.
Which is that second one?
Well, it says 2A, 3E,
Mm-hmm.
state assessment, which we were just
Oh,
talking
yeah.
about. It says accepting that would delete the following, which was business employment. I'm not sure why, I didn't see the connection between those two. But,
Limits work, oh. Yeah, I agree with you. I didn't understand that one either. It basically, so they're deleting this one saying that if a student's not, you know, maintaining a certain grade level, you're supposed to urge your local businesses not to employ them or allow them to attend work, but that doesn't have anything to do with the state assessment. Would you like me to ask them
I
at the
don't
meeting?
know, I wasn't sure if there was something behind the scenes, that, some connection that I didn't.
No, I didn't see any connection either. I just thought they were deleting this one and replacing it with that one,
Yeah.
but I will ask. What else do we have? They always have something, right? Every year they have something on there about local board responsibility, which I like. The legislative mandates one, that just says that they oppose any legislative unfunded mandate. So if they're gonna make a mandate for the school, they are requesting it to be state funded as well, so that the local, people are not responsible for raising those funds. I don't think there's anything else that significant. The one that kind of stuck out to me that I talked with Carrie about was the essential programs and services, so the EPS form. That is,
So on page 7.
yes, on page 7.
Do you have page on 7? Yes, okay.
So, you know, it's like the Maine School Board Association kind of asking for them to edit the EPS form to help local schools get better funding. And we've seen this in our district, right, where we're always sending out emails and asking people to fill out this form so that we can get better funding. And so I thought this would be a good one for us to kind of mull over as a board and see what you guys think we should say there, because I felt like this one would help our community the most in terms of increased funding from the state, right? And I don't know if you,
So the legislature actually directed for the EPS formula to be reviewed, studied, and so I've actually already provided some feedback in a couple different surveys. University of Maine has a research institute that is usually gets tagged by the legislature to do this work. And so they've asked me to provide some feedback on what are some challenges for us in terms of what EPS declares as essential and what how we operate and sort of like what we think is essential. So, for example, the ratio of administrators to school size. The middle school in green should not have assistant principals according to EPS. Like, I don't know how you function. Certainly, deans at Turner Primary and Turner Elementary, those are not covered under EPS. But without providing additional support to administration, to support teachers to help deal with student behaviors, like you can't run a classroom. Like your point of like how often are classrooms disrupted. So if you don't have enough people to help deal with that and support kids and help them figure out how to not do that, then you end up with disruption in the classroom. But those positions are not covered under EPS. We don't receive any funding for them. A nurse in every building, we do not receive funding from the state for a nurse in every single building. But given the complicated nature of a lot of kids' medical needs, I think most schools would struggle to know how to fully function without a nurse. Property valuations, we can all talk about that. People's properties are all worth twice what they were worth 10 years ago, but I don't think everybody's salary doubled. So I think that what you can pay, what you're worth, and what you can pay really are two different
I feel like
things.
the new resolution at the end is tied
Yep.
to it. where they're
Yes.
Pushing
Coming from
for
Orno.
inflationary adjustments.
Or Old Town.
Yeah, Orno.
Oh,
RC
Orno,
26.
yeah.
That
Yeah.
sounds like a good, I like how that's,
me
Yeah.
too, and finding alternatives to property tax to determine funding, which I think,
Because ability to pay right now from the EPS formula is 100% the valuation of the tax. Like, how much is the town worth? This is how much they can pay. And so I think those are all challenges but there's always risk in messing with the EPS formula. Like, there's always winners and losers. They tweak one thing by like 0.05 and all of a sudden your number looks, and you're like, holy crap, don't do that. Right, so there's always winners and losers when they mess with it, so.
well, I mean, I think the proposal from Orno doesn't change it, it just suggests that they need to keep pace with inflation.
Yeah.
So hopefully the formula is what everyone just sees as,
Yeah.
you know,
yep,
and it's talking about how even though 55% milestone was reached, funding for schools has actually been cut by 5 to 10% in real dollar terms over the last few years. So it's like, I think it makes sense to.
And every school district has seen the need to increase salaries, like to just stay with personnel. But that's not been kept up with in terms of this formula, so.
I just wanted to touch base with Carrie about it, because I wanted to make sure that this was a resolution that wouldn't harm our district, and it's not, this is something that I think I would like to advocate for when we're there and speak on, if the board also shares those feelings. Oh, and then the other one that was the new resolution is the AI one.
Most, like, all the ones that raised the flag with me right away, I'm not sure what to think about it.
Me
So-
neither. I've actually felt the same exact way. I was like, I just put a big question mark by it. I was like, need to get the board to weigh in. I don't know how I felt about it. So, you know, the Maine School Board Association recognizes that the use of AI in schools is a tool to enhance student education. That's kind of the first line. Its purpose should be to support all students to achieve their educational goals. The goal of AI is to promote literacy, providing students the opportunity to learn to question and evaluate information while making informed decisions about generated content.
It doesn't say who proposed it, so that must be MSBA proposed it?
Yeah.
I mean, this is, I feel like we have a whole meeting on AI, but, I mean, do you have any, does anyone have any AI thoughts? Like, how much is it being used in school right now? Is it becoming a problem? I mean, in general, in the media landscape, I hear about it at colleges, universities. I hear a lot of stories about that. I'm not sure how pervasive it is in our high school or our middle school. I imagine our elementary school students aren't effective enough with it, or maybe they are, I don't know.
Well, they need to be taught about, like, that things are generated by AI may not be real, that they're seeing, right?
Yep.
Like, those are challenges that are gonna be the case. I mean, I'll let Jana speak to what she's seen so far from high school.
Yeah, we just let them know up front that the version history on the Google Docs. And so if they go from like no report to a giant report really quickly. It was sort of an issue right when it came out, but we've been pretty transparent about like the editing process and working on papers and things, you know, that it's considered plagiarism and stuff like that. And so from students, it hasn't really been as much of an issue. Teachers are dabbling a little with how to appropriately use it for some things around like lesson planning and things like that. But it's been pretty healthy so far, I would say.
Yeah.
I would just add that it mentions the policies, and Wally has talked with me and Carrie about looking at policies, so we're gathering some samples. I have some samples from other districts. And also, as an aside, I was doing curriculum work with some health and PE teachers on Monday, and Atlas, which you've heard me mention, the platform where we're entering our curriculum, actually has a little magic wand, and it's magic. You can put in, write a learning target for this standard, and it gives you like all these options, and then you can choose from it. So we were just experimenting with that because it actually helped guide our work, where some of these terms can be super confusing when we're working. And it was important because, like Carrie said, we didn't just pick all of them. Like, we were having conversations about which one of these makes sense for this particular standard. So I think it is pervasive, like it says in here, and as Carrie mentioned, we want to make sure our students know of it and proper uses for it.
I have a second question for the board.
I would just, if you're able to, suggest that they insert the word digital before the word literacy for the goal of the use of AIs from digital literacy, because AI can be used for many things, it's not just literacy based, and there's a difference between digital literacy and literacy, which is more of your ABCs on paper, right? Digital literacy is that idea, as they kind of go on to say, is students need to know that it's not a replacement, that you can get an idea and a suggestion, but that you really need to read that over and make changes and still use an analytical perspective when taking whatever AI has suggested. And that's a whole different lesson to teach students than just, it wrote your essay for you.
So you want to add digital in
Digital.
front of it, so you don't think it should be used for literacy?
No, it's just that it makes it
Broader
broader.
than just literacy.
It's
Okay.
broader,
It makes it better.
yeah.
Nicola?
I think the AI policy is far too permissive. I think AI is still in its nascent phase. I think that people are rightly skeptical of it because it is easily manipulated to produce particular results. And so I don't think that there's enough public trust to put out a policy like a statement like this that says, that condones the use of a technology that no one here has control over, and that could easily be producing results that surreptitiously introduce ideas. And if you've paid attention to any of the news, you've seen how overtly political this has gotten. It's easy to spot the overt stuff. It's a lot harder to spot things that are just kind of fed in. So I would urge that we oppose any kind of statement that promotes this use in any way. I think it's just too young a technology to use.
Well, yeah, just this relates to what I wanted to say, and it's kind of, I see multiple levels to this. One is what we just talked about, which, it's in kids' hands, it's coming into the schools, and there's probably a need to address it and talk about what's appropriate and what's not appropriate with it. There's another level to this, which is to try to encourage its use and integration into the classroom as a tool. And that's where I start to wonder a little bit, but I don't really know enough about it. I don't know. But
Yeah,
you're an
so-
English teacher, so
Yeah, but still, you can use AI for more than just writing an essay. We can't ignore the bull in the china shop. Whether you like it or not, AI is here and AI is the future. And it is, I agree with you, Anthony, it is still very much a baby and we're still really trying to figure out the best way to be able to help it enhance student learning. But I think putting a statement out that makes, I don't like the way this is written. And I think it needs a little bit more wordsmithing for some of it too, but I do think that there needs to be something said because AI is here and we do need to have teachers guiding students appropriately, just like we would with anything new coming up.
yeah, I feel like I want to stop short of encouraging its use necessarily. That's kind of where I land. This is a statement about encouraging use, but I feel like it's something that's unavoidable that we need to talk about.
Yeah, and depending on the AI platform that schools might use, they might be able to really enhance students' education. In my district, we use Magic School, which allows the students and teachers to be able to do a plethora. It literally gives you this dashboard with like 50 different things you can click on to create different activities and programs and whatnot. So it can be used for many things because it can, we've seen online that you can use AI to manipulate photographs and pictures. So like it could be used even in an art classroom as part of digital design, right? So there's multiple ways that AI can be used and incorporated to enhance education. It shouldn't replace and it shouldn't just be a quick, easy, here's your assignment, so now just go use AI and then let AI do the work. So I think that this should still be in there, but it needs to be tightened up a bit. And depending on its use, there can still be some really positive things with AI.
Kristen?
I agree with what Bree said. I think it doesn't word right. And there should be a lot more. I recently was listening to a podcast about AI and like 13-year-olds using it and using naked bodies and putting their classmates' photo or their face on it and looked like a real. So like going into common sense media, and I think that there's so much more about AI than just allowing it in on like good graces and that everybody's going to use it for the right thing when it's already not being used for the right like good means, then I don't know.
Yeah.
I would agree with a lot of what Anthony said. I think the resolution gets a little too close to encouraging it outright, and they try to save it with the rationale by saying, students and staff will need to know the importance of it and selective use. But I feel like that should be the starting point instead of trying to say, hey, this is great, it can really be beneficial in so many different ways, but you really need to understand. I think it should start with a core understanding of, and it may not be possible to have a core understanding of, like Anthony said, it's very new. But yeah, I don't like the first part. I think the last part, the rationale is kind of a better starting point, I guess.
Sorry, I was working the other direction this whole time. You guys been up for a while? Go ahead, Peter.
I feel that I would encourage, and then we'll be more serious about this when we look at our own policies for the district, but the statement, I agree with Anthony, but I want to lean more towards your statement. I do believe we cannot ignore it, and we need to have ways to address it and explain it and warn our students and staff about it. I would be extremely hesitant about encouraging any use of it, period. And any sort of programs offered and anything like that, for a couple different reasons. One, primarily, you're not 100% sure on where those ideas are coming from, where they're being formulated, what's going into them, as well as what, this is all coming in from somewhere, part of these programs. Chances are at this point, it could be going out somewhere as well, which is another avenue we have to watch out for. If any of these programs are connected in any way to any sort of larger programming or anything like that, I think we need to be careful on what we encourage any of our staff or students to work with until more restrictions have come on where this information, this data is coming from and where it's going to. And that's my concern. Yes, it has lots of uses out there, but the horror stories I'm hearing, my son's going to college for this right now, and he tells me the horror stories that he's being, they're teaching him about it and how they're hesitant about it, their levels of, their encouraging level of use of it. And so I would just think we ought to be very hesitant on any program that offers it. And I'm afraid that it's offered in a lot of programs right now that we're not even aware it's being offered at. So it's just something we need to be on top of, and that's where I think we need to evaluate.
Yeah, I would agree that it's, deleting it may not be the answer, but certainly not encouraging. I also would like to see language in it that, really highlights that this should not be used in place of, fostering critical thinking for students. And it's not that students just go asking AI how to think or how should I react to this, rather than encouraging students to ask questions for themselves. I think that's a big problem. And I also think, like what Peter said, there's regulation that's coming down the pipeline. They're reviewing it at the federal level. I don't know what they're doing at the state level, but where it is new and they're still looking at it, I definitely wouldn't mind seeing it.
I just wanted to ask a clarifying question for Peter. Peter, you were saying specifically, like, if we were to adopt or use any programs in this district, your concern is about when students were to input something into an AI program and then they get that information, if that, can you just clarify what you're saying about the information going out? What did you mean by that specifically?
Number one, the program itself, if it's an AI program, that means it's using all kinds of information coming into it to come up with its ideas.
Robots.
and formulating. Depending upon the program, and again, I don't know them, that information is coming from many different sources. And depending upon how, are we talking about a program you buy that's not connected to the internet? Which I doubt it. Somehow these programs are connected to the internet, which means that information is coming from hundreds of sources. So that means all of our information that we're inputting is going out to those hundreds of sources. And that's some of the areas that I think we need to be careful about. It's just where are we putting information in, where's it going to? Until the regulations come down, until some of the safeguards are established. Unfortunately, the people developing this right now, they're, in my opinion, of course, are light years ahead of anybody who's worried about enforcement and safety protocols. The people who are developing and using it are all about a financial issue or an information gathering information. if I say a word on my phone, anywhere around my phone right now, it will start giving me advertisements for whatever I talked
Of
about.
course, now you're gonna see lots of advertisements about AI.
I know.
And so,
Thank
you
you
know,
for
that's not,
clarifying that.
so-
Anne is listening. That's what I was thinking you were
so-
getting
So
at.
that's what, you know, so I think we need to just be careful of what we
Right.
encourage our staff and so forth to be
So-
using, to go both ways.
Can I just because I don't want to spend too much time on it, but, I think, I don't know, Kara, if you want to speak to this, but, Wally will definitely have a procedure that he goes through with all programs that is allowed to be able to use by teachers in the classroom to be able to check for student privacy.
Yeah,
to
so
make
we
sure
already
that
have that,
students-
so any
correct.
program used in the district has to have a data privacy agreement, otherwise teachers can't use it. So we have a list, you can find it on the website, of every program that we are allowing teachers to use because the company has agreed to sign the data privacy agreement and to abide by it so that students' data is protected. And that's something that Teresa started and now is working, Wally's working with her as partner. So that's
So I
been in
think that
place
kind of
for a
helps
while.
put a safeguard in place for us at the district level, that again, as you're saying, right, it's an internet-based thing, and so if the company, this organization that would say, oh, we're an AI company, we're great and safe for schools, use it in your classrooms, but they don't sign that student privacy, then we wouldn't be able to use it, and only the ones that do, which means they're not gonna sell the information to third parties, disperse that information out into the internet anywhere else, like, then we know that it would be a safe program, just like any other, math intervention or reading intervention program that students might be using on the computer.
So I'd like to just interrogate a little bit of this policy or this position statement, and it says, the purpose of AI should be to support all students to achieve their educational goals. So what this does is it says, oh, there's this technology that's out there, and it's a technology that's very accessible. Therefore, we must assume that people are going to use it, and therefore we must be okay with it, and therefore we must say that, well, it's going to be to enhance students' educational goals. People have been educating humans for a very long time without the aid of AI, without the aid of computers. We can do this. We can teach people how to read. We can teach people how to do pretty complex math with pencils and paper.
Chalkboard, chalk.
Yeah, it is unnecessary. So I feel like this is just this. It's a statement to try to make. I don't want to sound too cynical, but it's like this feel-good statement. Oh, we've got a statement on that, and it's a very responsible statement. I don't see there being a good outcome here with AI the way that it's going now. College professors have to come up with new ways to evaluate their students. You can't ask for a piece of writing because you can't have any trust that student actually wrote that thing. And it's a huge problem when you teach creative writing, right? So I think it could be a much simpler statement. So I propose that we direct Jamie to make an amendment to say that the policy statement is the Maine School Boards Association discourages the use of AI, period.
I was just gonna say, that's like a step further than I personally feel. I think we have to recognize, I feel that we have to recognize it. I think that it's something we should be talking about, because it's going to be something that kids try to use or attempt to use, and I think being able to talk about it is important. I think I feel we shouldn't be encouraging it, but I also don't think we should necessarily discourage it, right? Like the application of an art teacher, like, I don't know, I spent some time with the DALL-E and made a Winslow Homer version of Kraken
No, you
attacking.
didn't.
No, the
You
computer
made
did.
nothing.
I suggested it, and it generated, and it was really fun to see this Kraken attacking the fishermen in the style of Winslow Homer,
Right.
right?
But you didn't make that.
No, I know. but it exists, and I think especially in the creative, like, I mean, all the Adobe software has all these AI tools now for art. So I guess what I'm saying is, it is pervasive in professional markets, in different careers. It's being used in different ways. I don't necessarily think we should be encouraging like every teacher to figure out a way to incorporate AI into their classroom, because I think that would be pretty challenging and unnecessary and scary in a lot of ways. But I don't think we should discourage certain teachers if they have an idea to use it in some way, that they shouldn't try to use it in
It
the
doesn't
classroom.
forbid.
Yeah, but I think like just like the statement you said discourages, I think just the first statement of the Maine School Board Association recognizes the use of AI in schools as a tool. I don't think we should be discouraging it, but I don't think we should be encouraging it.
I think that opens the door.
The door is
Well, the
open.
door is
The door's
open.
open.
The door is open, it's
Yeah.
wide open.
Good.
Just to put this out there as well, just so you guys get maybe another perspective. I sit on another board, and we do a lot of professional development for teachers around AI, because again, it is there. You just said even college kids are using it, right? So it stems even beyond our public school systems and into colleges. And teachers are already working really hard across the state of Maine to learn more about what is AI and how can we come at it from the right angle to be able to make sure that our students aren't just using it as a way to cheat and a replacement for any of their work. But teachers really are tackling this across the state, and so if we put out a blanket statement to to everybody that says, don't use AI, it's too late. Teachers are already digging in because they know it's already happening, and they are trying to get ahead of it as much as possible. I think that we should really try to, not that we have to necessarily say every single school should use it and let everyone run wild, but there should be some support to say that AI is here. Teachers, gain some knowledge and education. Let's make sure that we're all on the same page about how we're going to use AI in the education setting, and educate yourselves and use it for the benefit of your own profession as a teacher, to how can you help support students. But I would disagree that we just put a blanket statement that says discourage, because they are already working so hard across the state to learn about it and tackle it and use it appropriately.
I think this could keep going for a long time tonight. I just want to do a quick straw poll. I think there are three positions. I think there is an encouragement, I think there is kind of a recognition in the middle, and I think that there is a discouragement as well. And I think just a quick straw poll, just to see where people stand, to try to help Jamie go. Are people, who is on the encouragement side of this? Okay. Who is on the recognition side of this?
Well, okay.
Kind of in the
There's
middle.
recognition with discouragement.
and how about people think that should be just discouraged altogether? Okay. So, yeah, so it's, I mean, I think this statement is an encouraging statement, and I think our position is to kind of pull the reins back, certainly. Maybe not fully discourage, but certainly not be encouraging. So people fair on that being that straw poll result? Because there's only, yeah, go ahead.
I'm just curious, and from some of the educators here and so forth, I'm trying in my mind right now, I can see where, as an educator, can use AI to try to get some stuff. I'm trying to see where a student, other than art, creative thinking, something like that, anything with a crack in is cool, that's great, but I'm trying to think where AI would help a student, period. My first thought is, our goal is to have a student think and learn how to think on their own. Whether it be creative writing, whether it be mathematics, whether it be just a ability to take political science and evaluate the whole opinion and make a decision. I'm trying to think where having another machine help make that decision for you helps a student. That's what I'm trying to think.
My kid used AI the other day to do something that I just felt was genius. I didn't even know you could do this, but he has, he can't write, he has dysgraphia, so he can't write, so he types everything. and he also has trouble with like executive functioning because he's autistic, and he recognizes that, and so he uses AI to his advantage. So he knew he had a to-do list, but all of his to-do lists were typed by subject on different sheets, and so he used AI to combine all of them, and then he told AI what his priority was. I have to get my science done first. And so it organized all of his subjects by priority for him in a checklist, because he didn't know how to make the little bullets next to them. Genius.
But, and I think there's a lot of creative ways that it could be used. I don't know specifically here, right? I mean, I don't.
Well,
just
I was trying to sidestep, I could see where somebody would, anyways, I'm not gonna go down a road that I'm gonna get.
I don't know,
I just was sitting here trying to think of where AI could help a student. You know, because our goal is to get them to learn how to do it, not get them how to figure out how to have somebody else do it for them.
I think we just wanna make sure we remember, however, how much access to technology they already have, like they're Googling
Oh,
stuff.
and I think that's why we
right?
need to make
So-
sure they're
right.
aware of it, and that they're
Correct.
aware that,
So it's being discriminating,
Yes.
it's making sure they're questioning, they're interrogating the stuff that they're getting, whether they're Googling it or AI
well, they gotta say,
generated
Google
whatever.
is telling them what Google wants to be, not necessarily what
Right.
the truth is,
So-
again, what Google's telling them what's right.
Well, and I don't mean to belabor this, but one of the things that's missing from this statement is there's no caution. There's no recognition of the fact that blatant abuses, clear abuses of AI have taken place in I think pretty sinister ways. Ways that have caused huge amounts of pain for people whose face has been put into very compromising situations like you discussed, all the way to trying to manipulate elections. And I could just, it is too easy. It's too easy to manipulate through a technology like this, and without any kind of statement that says, we caution against this, because it is already being used this way. You can't have any confidence that you are not being manipulated every time you use AI. If they could include something like that, I might get behind it, but good Lord.
I would agree, it's the caution that makes me not want to encourage it, but not, again though, I think it can be used, I don't want to necessarily discourage people from using it either, so, but I think that's a good valid, like, why aren't we encouraging it? Because we should be more cautious than pushing it into every classroom.
Right, but it doesn't say why you should be
Yeah,
cautious.
right, but I don't know exactly how this is gonna work at the delegate summit, I've been there a couple of years, but,
It won't work.
but, I don't know, Jamie, do you feel like you have direction from us on this topic?
Yeah, I mean, I think that there's direction, for sure. The two sentences that I'm hearing you guys really struggling with is that its purpose should be to support all students to achieve their educational goals. Not a great sentence, right? But I heard Ashley say that she would support that last line, that AI is not a substitute for schoolwork that requires original thought or critical thinking, right? Okay, so that one,
I feel
The
like,
rationale, I thought I heard Alex also say the rationale was
yep,
solid.
appropriate use of AI will guide students to think critically about the results they obtain through AI, I think that's accurate as well.
yep,
It's the, I don't know,
First couple sentences.
it is the first couple sentences, yeah, just really will
Yeah.
push it out a lot, and, but I think the last couple sentences about its appropriate use, again, I think if it's gonna be used in the classroom, if a teacher's going to decide to use this, or somehow it's gonna be brought into the school, it's those last sentences that are the important part, that it's not a replacement for critical thinking. It's only appropriate if if it's guiding,
How
well,
about-
read them again, but.
How about the Maine School Boards Association recognizes the use of AI, including generative AI, in schools as a tool to enhance student education, comma, albeit one with a myriad of dangers. I mean, that says it. Everything else, if you put that caution bit in there, it certainly tempers the tacit approval of using it wholesale.
Can I ask you a question, Anthony?
Of course. Well,
When-
you have to ask Joe.
When, so when you went last year, were you able to kind of say, this is how my board is feeling? Like, you don't have to give a specific wording, you can just say, my board wants to make sure when we're going through this, we're cautioning people in the dangers of AI as well?
You should make an amendment
An amendment with specific
with
wording?
specific wording.
Okay,
That, I mean, you can do it the other way, but it's not gonna do much. It's gonna come down to, is there a motion? And the problem is that you gotta get in early, because this is gonna come at the end of the meeting. And like, two people are gonna talk, and somebody's gonna call the motion, because everybody's tired.
okay,
So there's not, there isn't, it's really unfortunate that they put it here, because you're not even gonna have like, a third of the people or half of the people will have dropped out by now. Sorry.
Do we have time before, first of all, when is this, and do we have time to review this on our own and then discuss what this was, so we have more time than one?
I think this is coming up pretty soon, right?
It's a Saturday, right?
yeah, it's a Saturday, I should know the answer to that question, but I don't. And believe it or not, I've been panicking this whole time, because I know I should know the date, and I was looking on my phone, but I don't have internet or service, so can't.
I think it is this Saturday.
Is it the 27th?
So there's not enough time to have another meeting to discuss. if that's
We
what you're asking.
each individually have time to send in Jamie thoughts.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
right. But we are supposed to be voting, or at least having a consensus opinion to give to Jamie. So it would be hard to do that in email, which, it really needs to happen at a meeting. So unfortunately, and this happens every year, so next year, we can jump on this more. But I think for this year, this is kind of what we're getting for advice. And, whether you make an amendment or not, Jamie, I think it's important you at least express the opinion we've come to, if you
Yes.
get it, if you are able to.
Absolutely.
Once they call the question on.
Yeah, before you can get a chance.
Yep.
And we're not beholden to,
No, this is
this
MSBA.
is guidance from the state, essentially.
not the
We're not
state.
from the state, from
It-
the MSBA.
Yes.
But,
that
well, but
we're a
it
part of.
guides the MSBA's, so, I mean, they're basically a lobbying organization.
Yeah.
So they're gonna take these, and they're gonna do whatever they do with it at various levels with legislators.
I imagine it'll show up in the recommended policies as well, the things that
Maybe.
they suggest.
Yeah.
You said
Yeah,
you think the
because-
policies come in, you think you guys are putting together a policy?
Mhm.
Is that what I heard you say earlier?
Yes,
AI's on the agenda somewhere.
Yes.
somewhere.
Somewhere.
It's on that list that Teresa made over the summer as one of the things
I
that.
think we do need to provide some guidance.
Yes.
Like, it's out there, it's being, like, we have to provide some kind of guidance also.
Yeah, I think it would be irresponsible of us not to have an AI policy, because we can't ignore it.
One word, don't.
Okay. Anything further? Seeing none, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So
Peter,
Second.
seconded. Anthony, all those in favor? That's unanimous.